Hi guys, I'm Aussie Villain and welcome to Football Manager 21 Tactics Tutorial. Now today we're going to be going through and not give you individual tactics, but kind of walk you through exactly how to set up a tactic and what you need to look for to set up a successful tactic. Now straight off the top, we need to get some YouTube admin done. If you are new to my channel, make sure that you subscribe, ring the bell so you know when I upload new videos. There's to be some more tutorials and also some Let's Plays as well throughout FM21. If you enjoy this, if you find it helpful, make sure you hit thumbs up. There's links in the description to my Discord, Twitter, all that kind of stuff if you want to sort of, I don't know, see what I'm doing, I don't know. And there's also, of course, the comment section. If you have any tips of your own, leave them in there. Questions, suggestions, all that sort of stuff. Make sure you're leaving comments as well. Now, this brings us, of course, to the start of the tutorial and tactics. Now, I always think the best thing to do is to build from the back. Now, the reason I say that is for two reasons. One, if you're defending well, you know, if you keep clean sheet, you're going to get at least a point. But second of all, it really does dictate the way you want to play. I always think you want to try and get as much as possible. Now, this is obviously my Barcelona series we did during the beta. I always think when it comes to defenders, jumping reach, strength, heading ability is better than pace. Now, the reason that I say that is because you can, we want this one here. You can, if you've got a slow defense, you can sit deep. You can prevent a team from sort of using their pacey strikers against your slow defenders by sitting deep. You can sit as deep as you want and just head the ball away. You know, play narrow, make them go wide, cross the ball in. Your big defenders with a heading ability can head the ball away, and you know, jobs are good in there. And then, of course, what you can then go and do at the other end, if we go back up here, is that you can go and play for set pieces, get your big boys up from the back with their jumping ability and heading ability, and just score your goals from set pieces. It's not pretty, it's not ideally the way you want to play, but it is effective. I think if Pulis, Allardyce, those sorts of guys have told us anything, it's that it is effective. So build from the back, get your big boys in there first, sort out your defense, and then you can start and look to go forward. Now, what you want to do is you want to have sort of like a general plan for the way you want to play. Now, if you are going to sit deep with big defenders, you're probably going to want pace up front. Now, I wasn't necessarily, as you could see, sitting deep with Barcelona. But if you've got you know, some pacey attackers up front, what that means, of course, if you're sitting deep, so you're sitting deeper like this, you'll probably be compact like that as well, trying to make it difficult for the other team. They're going to be coming onto you. Look at all the space that's in behind here. You can then go and look to be a bit more direct. Still play at a high. Well, you can play whatever tempo you like. And just you wouldn't necessarily work the ball into the box. Just look to get the ball forward, pass it into space, because look at all the space that you have, and so you're going to want your pacey strikers to build that up. Now, alternatively, there's nothing wrong, by the way, with getting pacey defenders. The problem that you have with that is that, well, if you have pacey defense, you can play a high line. You can make it, because your guys are going to get back. But when the other team have a corner or a free kick, you can't play a high line from a corner. Your aerial weakness there's nothing you can do about that there. You're going to have to head the ball away, and you're going to have a weakness for your team. That's why I always think the bigger, big head defenders that can head the ball are better, just because not only can you protect yourself in general play, but also from set pieces as well. So yeah, you want to sort of have like a general outlook on how you want to play. Now, if you are going to play a higher line, if you have guys that are good in the air and also pacey, again, chances are teams are going to sit back against you. So what you're going to want in that case is, your midfield. You're going to need, and Barcelona obviously are known for this, you're going to need your players with their passing ability, their vision, because you're going to have to break down the opposition. That being the case, that's when you want to work the ball into the box. You probably want to be playing some shorter passes. You probably want to be more expressive. You may want to, if they're closing you down rapidly, you're going to want to play at a high tempo. If they're just sitting back, sitting off you, you can always slow it down and, just take your time. Now, one other thing you want to look at is playing width. It's always, I think, good to play with as much width as possible. And I'll show you in a second how to sort of adjust your tactics for how the opposition's going to play. The reason I say it's always good to play with a little bit of width is because if you're playing with your wide players wide, it makes their fullbacks make a decision. Are they going to go wide and stay with them or are they going to let them go down the outside, or are they going to play narrow, in which case you have space, well and truly enough space to get down the outside and get the crosses in. Now, if they go and mark your wingers so that they don't have much space. That then opens up the middle of the field, because obviously, the field's so wide, you only have so many players, you can't mark everything. So if they're spreading their defense to mark wide players, then suddenly your midfielders, they have more space to play in as well. And a way you can exploit that is you can either look to exploit the middle, which is obviously going to get the central midfielders involved, or exploit the flanks, which is obviously then going to make sure that the wingers are stretching the team. Now, one other thing you can look to do is to use the overlaps. Now, if you've got wing backs, and this is something that I did have, you can see I've got my fullback set to attack. They're going to be getting forward. You can, if the other team's being difficult to break down, look for the overlaps, sort of go man or 2-on-1 for their wide players, or if you're exploiting the middle, it could be a good outball if you don't necessarily play with wingers. Now, one other way that I play, and I do think you probably want to have more than one formation to fall back on, but I found this is an effective formation for me personally. And again, we've got attacking wingbacks getting forward, so a lot of our play obviously goes through the middle, playing this formation, because we've got the sort of this narrow diamond there. But using looking for the overlaps on this particular formation can be very, very useful, because there is going to be players out there available in space, and you'll get the hint, or you'll get the idea when you're playing the game. If you see your fullbacks are in acres of space, then just look for the overlaps. It's a surefire way to get yourselves creating some chances. Now, one other thing while we're talking about overlapping fullbacks and wide players is what sort of crosses do you want into the box? Now, if you've got Andy Carroll up front, you probably want to float those crosses in, give him a chance to get it, get underneath the ball, his jumping reach, his strength, hold off defenders, and get the ball into the back of the net. But if you are sort of like Barcelona, and let's face it, Barcelona with the likes of Messi are not known for their jumping reach. Fati's not too good in the air either. Then that's where you want to get your low whipped crosses in, because you want it low on the ground, so they've got a chance to use their pace, sort of dart in between the defenders and get sort of side foot tap ins that way. So you do want to think about what sort of crosses you want coming into the box as well. Dribble more, dribble less is not, it depends. I've never really used either of them, to be honest. If you have an opposition that have a lot of defenders on bookings, then dribble more might be an idea. Try and get them committing fouls, but I've never really, to be honest, worried about that too much. Now, one other thing you will want to do is when you first come into the team, if you go and have a look at squad dynamics. Now, team cohesion for me, I'm at the end of a season with Barcelona, is good. But when you first come in, you might find that this is down into the red. That being the case, what you'll want to do is when you get here, you want to be more disciplined. The players don't know each other yet. You don't want them expressing themselves because they're not on the same wavelength. So if new club, new season, if you've got lots of new players, always start the season with being more disciplined. You can see here that team fluidity is structured. Does that change is that affected by this? It's still structured, yeah. So I'm sort of on the borderline here. I've got good players, obviously, at Barcelona, so I will be more expressive. But be more disciplined is a good way just to make sure that you do keeping it simple to start with. It doesn't mean you won't score goals. It doesn't mean it's long ball. It just means the players will stick to their position a little bit more and not be as flamboyant, perhaps. So that is that. Now, one thing that you will see here as well, we've got a little link up here between Longley and PK. This is something that will develop over time as your players play together. Now, if you have two players that play like this, always a good idea to be playing them together. You will occasionally, and I don't think I have any players that are doing it just now, but you'll occasionally find that players don't play well together. It's usually a broken line. If that's the case, I've had it in the past where players eventually have come around and been able to play together, but you just want to be very careful how and when you're playing them. Friendlies is a good time to do that. If it's sort of a cup game, if you expect to win, those sorts of games can be useful. But yeah, this is good. The broken line, and I'm assuming it's going to be the same in FM20. As I said, as FM20, I haven't seen it yet, but you want to be a little bit wary of that. And a big thing too, when you're trying to decide what sort of formation you want to play, it's sort of the question, do you want to squeeze the players into a formation or have a formation that fits the players? It doesn't really matter, to be honest. I always think within reason it's better to have a way you want to play, and that way you can sign players to fit the way that you want to play. And like I say, I always think you should have two different ways, just so if one is not working, you can always switch to the other one. But it doesn't necessarily, just because a player doesn't necessarily say they can play a position here, that doesn't necessarily mean they can't. You can retrain players if they have the attributes to play that. Now, Sergi Roberto is a central midfielder, according to the game, a world-class central midfielder. I've played him at right back all season. Now, that's not revolutionary. I think he plays there in real life as well. But you can retrain players that have got the right attributes to play a position. Now, it sort of highlights here that you can see there the attributes that are wanted. One position that can often be retrained, central midfielders as attacking fullbacks or wingbacks, is something to look out for. Strikers and wingers can often be interchangeable. Someone like Dembele could, in theory, although he doesn't have the best composure, I will do a number of different tutorials going into some of these things in detail. But one thing the player attribute is some will feed off of other ones. Now, he doesn't have great composure, so he's not necessarily going to be a good striker. But you will often find, if you did have a winger that has good finishing and good composure and all those sort of things you want from a striker, often they can be retrained as well. Sometimes you'll find centre-backs that can, in theory, there is absolutely nothing that says Gerard Piqué couldn't go forward and be a midfielder, other than the fact he's a very, very, very good defender. You don't want to weaken your team by moving players out of position. But if not especially not a 34-year-old, but if you've got young players, that is something that you can look to do as well. If you need to try and move players around to fit into a formation that you want to play, look at the attributes, see if they'll fit that role, and the way you would retrain them is you would go into training here. Position role, and then if you wanted to train Messi as a centre-back, that's how you do it. And one last thing, when you're looking to set up a tactic, I always think you need to have a think about, do your attacking players need defensive duties? Now, one thing that I will always do is, and if you watch my Let's Plays, you'll see that I do this all the time. In this particular formation, the wingers, they're there to, and they're going to man mark the opposition fullback. Now, the reason that they're going to do that is because I don't want my fullbacks being overrun. If there's a winger and they have, look for overlaps on, I don't want my fullbacks being stuck with a winger to mark and then a fullback bombing forward as well. I want to make sure that my wingers, and yes, even Lionel Messi has to do it, I want to make sure that they're tracking back and just making sure that they're not going to get overrun. You can use tight marking. It does help. Sometimes I will actually, just because they're not the best markers, I just want a token effort, just get back and help out. So sometimes that can help if you find that they're not really doing a great job of it. And in this other formation here, it's my strikers that do it. And that way I still have always a man, whether it be my number 10 in this particular formation or my striker in this one. You do want to have an out ball. You don't want to have everybody back, or else it's difficult to keep possession when you win it back. But I always think you do want to make sure that particularly fullbacks are marking. Now, one thing to be aware of, and I get caught out doing this all the time, is that if you've told, come back, come on, you're making me look bad now. Why wouldn't that come up? Anyway, if you've told them to go and mark a fullback and the other team's playing with wingbacks, which you'll find sometimes sort of a 5-3-2, you do just want to go and make sure, why can't I go and... Am I not clicking? I don't understand what's going on. You do just want to... there we go, finally. You do just want to make sure that when you're in the game or when you're up here and it'll say change something just for the next game, just make sure that you've changed it, because what will happen is, because they're marking a fullback doesn't necessarily mean they'll go and mark a wingback. What usually happens is that one person will go and mark the wingback on the opposite side, and the other winger will just mark a centre-back. So just make sure, if they're not playing the back four, like I set it up with here, that you go and change that. Because like I say, I've been caught out with that all the time. And you wonder why your team's not playing well, and then you notice they're playing wingbacks, and, the penny drops. Now, one thing you do also want to have a quick look at is set pieces. And, basically the way you want to set this up. Now, there's many, many ways you can do it. To be honest, haven't set this up particularly well. Usually what I'll do is I'll have 4 man markers. Now, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you have your man markers, first of all, they can mark, and you probably want to make sure they have good jumping reach and good heading ability as well. This is probably why my team was conceding so many set pieces, because I didn't really check this that carefully. Now, I always think you want to always have at least one man up front, and you want to have somebody at the edge of the area, whether you're attacking or defending. Have someone at the edge of the area lurking outside, because especially when you're attacking, if they head the ball away, if you don't have somebody out there, then they can easily go and get you on the break. So attacking and defending, I think, always have somebody on the edge of the area. And then I always do a mixture of man marking and zonal marking. You can do whichever way you like. There's no real one way that's better than the other. Guys that are here that are sort of marking the 6-yard box, they don't necessarily have to be good markers. They've just, I think, got to have jumping reach and maybe a little bit of strength. Just head the ball away. I always have one person on the post, on the near post, just to prevent a ball coming into the near post that the goalkeeper can't really get to. This is basically your worst header of the ball. Can't jump, can't head, no strength. Sticking him on the near post is always my theory. But yeah, so that's you do want to make sure you do this. You can always do it once. This is what I do. Do it once, save it, and then you can just reload it. When you do left and right, always make sure you do left and right, easy to get caught out. And then when you're attacking, the person lurking outside the area, make sure they have good long shots, because they might be able to just whack one straight back in. You can have someone marking the goalkeeper. Often you will find, and I get this a lot, especially with FM20, not so much with FM21 yet, getting caught offside with so many players sort of lurking in and around the 6-yard box. But you basically want person at the near post, person attacking the far post to be good headers. Again, you can see I haven't set this up properly. And person at the edge of the area, again, a good header of the ball. And I always think get your best finishers in there, just lurking around, looking to poke something home. It's definitely worth setting these up, and same with the set pieces as well. Definitely worth setting them up. It will save you some goals conceded, and it will score you some goals as well. Now, one thing you will want to look at is what the opposition is doing. Sometimes you need to tailor your tactics to the opposition. Now, the way to do this is you can just click on the club name however it is you want to get to that. Team reports, squad info, or senior squad down to matches. You want to go to individual match analysis, and then you can go here and you can basically pick your game. So we'll just go to the most recent one for this one. It'll load it up. And then you could spend as little or as much time on this as you want. You can do, shots for both teams, shots for one team. It's really, really in depth. It is actually quite a wonderful thing. And if you don't want to select all, then you can just obviously click. The things, and I haven't, to be honest, looked at this in a great detail because I don't really want to. But as I said, you could spend an hour, 2 hours setting up for each individual game. The one thing, or the things that I think are important to look at, though, if I can find them here, one is passes, both assists and also key passes as well, so you can see, where it is their killer balls are coming from. So in this case, you're going to want the fullback on that side being ready for, you can see there, Harvey Ontiverse, or however you say that name. He's someone you're going to want to look for. They had 4 key passes the entire game. They all came from that side, and 3 of the 4 came from that one player, and the other one came from the fullback on that side. So you roughly know where the threat comes from that team. So that's the passes. I think you also want to go down and have a look at average positions. So the overall average position, you can see through all the players there. What this basically tells you is if fullbacks are a long way up, it's most of the time I found that they all look pretty similar no matter who the team is. But you might notice that there's players that are sort of a little bit out of position. You might have a gap here you can exploit if you were to get an inside forward in there. Or maybe a box-to-box midfielder could push forward into that sort of space there. So that's the overall position, but you can see where they are with the ball. With the ball, you can see they're relatively spread out, so you're probably going to want to defend with width against this team. And then without the ball, again, you can see they sit back. They're pretty narrow. There's space down both sidelines, so you're probably going to want to attack with wingers, get the ball out wide, and go from there. And then, I've already showed you overall position. That's sort of a combination of the two. And then if you go down, the other thing I think is always good to look at is the heat map, where it is that they have the ball most often. So they tend to sort of keep it in and around sort of just the midfield area there. Now, one thing that is a little bit difficult in this one is what I used to like on FM20 was the passing network. I haven't really, and if you guys know how to find that, let me know in the comments. I haven't really found the best way to do that, and this is essentially useless. You can't really tell. I mean, there's 593 touches there. And it all looks a little bit the same to me. So, heat map is what I go for, and, it's nothing there to tell you too much, but this is where you would find all that information. You can see there is so much. You could literally spend hours preparing for each game if you were so inclined. So that's how you'll do that. And like I say, those are the things that I use to get you an idea of where the opposition's threat is going to be coming into the game. But that is it for the tactics tutorial. If you found this useful, please do hit thumbs up. If you've got any other tips, suggestions, questions, let me know in the comments. Subscribe if you're new, and I will see you next time, whether it be for a tutorial or for a Let's Play. I look forward to seeing you. Take care.